Hey guys, welcome to the pre-algebra recap video where we're reviewing multiplying and dividing decimals. Alright, so why don't you just go ahead and try this one on your own, play the video when you're done, see how you do. Alright, 0.28 times 4.1. So if I'm going to multiply those, I'm going to set it up vertically. Okay, so I got 0.28 times 4.1. Now remember, when you're setting up multiplication with decimals, do I need to line up the decimals? No, that's only for addition and subtraction, so I'm just going to do 4.1. And what I've done is just make sure everything's lined up on the right aligned, if you're like using Microsoft Word, right? So, pardon, let's see, let's just multiply. Well, 1 times 8 is going to get you 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. All right, and then we got 4 times, oh, I'm sorry, got to add our 0, goodness. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 2 is 8, plus a 3 would give you 11. And 4 times 0 is 0, but plus that 1 is a 1. Let's go ahead and add them up. 8 and 0 is 8. 2 and 2 is 4. 0 and 1 is 1. 0 and 1 is 1 again. And then I got to ask myself, well, is the answer really 1,148? No. How many decimal places do I need to move my decimal? Which actually brings up a good question. Where is the decimal currently? Well, currently in my answer, it's actually right there, but I'm going to have to move it. How many spots? Well, I'm going to borrow 2 decimal places from here and 1 from there. So a total of 3 decimal places. Move it 1, 2, 3. Your new answer is 1.1, oh my goodness, 1.148, and you're done. Alright, so why don't you take a second and try this one as well. It's a little more complicated, but I want you to give it a good shot. We'll see how you do, and then we'll get the answer, and we'll keep on moving. Alright, so what I have here are actually, well, 2 operations. I need to multiply and then a multiply again. So when you have that, okay, 2 multiplications in an expression, which one should you do first? Well, it doesn't actually really matter. You could do these 2 first if you want. For consistency's sake, I always like to do the first one times the second one. Okay, that's just to be consistent. So, in order to be consistent, let's go ahead and do that. So, 2.314 times negative 1.1. So the first thing we probably ought to notice is, what is a positive times a negative number always going to get you as far as the sign of your answer? Well, it's always going to be negative, okay? And since we're on this topic, what's a negative times a negative? Well, it's always going to equal a positive, right? How about a positive times a positive? Boy, I hope you get that. It is always a positive. P-O-S. Whoa, what is going on here? Oh, that's interesting. Positive. I don't know why my stylus is freaking out. I'm going to fix this. Well, I couldn't fix it. For whatever reason, I have like a bad spot on here. Anyway, so we're multiplying 2.314 times negative 1.1. So our answer is going to have a sign of what? Well, negative. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to, I know the answer is going to be negative, so for a moment I'm just going to pretend this one's positive. So let's multiply 2.314 times, we're going to do 1.1. We know, yes, secretly it's negative 1.1. Anyway, so multiply 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. Add our 0. 1 times 4 is 4, then a 1, then a 3, then a 2. That's a 0. Add them up. 4, 5, 4, 5, 2. How many decimal places? Well, this is 1, 2, 3. This has 1, so I'm going to move it 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. My answer is 2.545. Okay, but I'm not done. First of all, what is his sign? Well, remember, we multiplied positive times a negative, so he's actually a negative 2.5454. And we're going to multiply that by this. We've got to bring that times 0.007 down. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, we're multiplying a negative number times a positive, so our answer is going to be negative for sure. So we're going to pretend this negative sign just doesn't exist for a minute. And we're going to multiply 2.5454 times 0.007. Okay, so in order to make it line up on the right, so 7, 0, I'm going to write it backwards. And then where's my decimal? It's right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply this. 7 times 4, 28. 7 times 5, 35. Add a 2, so you get 37. 7 times 4, 28. Add 3, get 31. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 3, so it's going to get you 38. 7 times 2, 14 plus a 3, 17. Okay. Now, here's my next question. Do I really need to multiply 0 times all this? Then 0 times all that, then 0 times all that? No. The answer is no. And why? Because you're going to get 0 on every single line and for every single digit. So, we are done, except for one thing. Where's my decimal? Well, currently it's here. Does it need to stay? No, it needs to go. Kick it out. How many places? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3. So we got to move it 7 places total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we actually have to do what? We've got to add a 0 into this gap. Really? So what is our final answer? 0 point, and here's the gap, 0, and then our 178, 178. But what? We were multiplying a negative times a positive, so our answer is technically negative. Boom, there's the answer. And I'm curious if you guys got that one right. Hope some of you did. Maybe all you did. That'd be awesome. All right, so let's transition into dividing decimals, okay? So now, you know, if I give you a problem like 4.7175, right? We can do negative 4.7175 divided by 28.941432. Okay. Am I going to expect you to do this by hand? No. But I am going to expect you to do problems like this by hand. All right, so 5.5 divided by 2.2. How would we do that by hand? Well, we got to ask ourselves, what's doing the work here? So I read this 5.2 as being divided by, okay, 2.2. So this 2.2 is what's doing the work. And what do we call that? Well, the thing that's doing the work is the divisor, right? Just like I'm the teacher, or teacher, right? I'm the one who is doing the teaching. 2.2 is the divisor. He is doing the dividing. Okay, so that would make 5.5, well, what? Well, he's the dividend, D-I-V-I-D-E-N-D. Okay, so if we're going to do this by hand, though, remember we set up a division problem, and inside that problem goes what? Remember, the dividend goes inside, and it's being divided by the divisor, which goes outside. So my question is, can we do this problem as is? And the answer is no. What's the issue? Well, hopefully you guys remember, you know what? The divisor can't have a decimal. So I'm going to move this decimal to the right until it's gone. Well, now we have 22. If we moved it to the right, it becomes 22 point, right? But here's my question. What does that mean? Well, it really means 22.0. And 22.0, can I just write that as 22? Yeah. So what's my new divisor? It's 22. But if I move the decimal and the divisor to the right, I have to do the same to the dividend and move him to the right as well. So what does that become? Well, now it's 55. So now I'm dividing 55 by 22. So the question is, how many times does 22 go into 55? Well, it's only going to go in once, whole, and that'll give me 44. So let's subtract 5 and 1 is 1, 5, or 5 and 4 is 1, 5 and 4 is 1. Left over with 11. So you have a bit of a remainder here. Can we get rid of the remainder? Yes. How do we do that? Well, I like to implement what I call the DZ, otherwise known as the D-E-C-I-M-A-L, the decimal 0. Okay, so the decimal is going to go up there to the right of the first number that we've had on top, and the 0 is going to go right there. Okay, so we bring that 0 down, as you know. And then the question is, well, 22 goes into 110 how many times? And this isn't a common one, but it's actually, oh, you know what? I just realized I made a mistake. 22 goes into 55 not once. It is twice. I think I said twice, but wrote once. It's 2. Sorry about that. Anyway, 22 goes into 110, well, how many times? So this one isn't really common, but it's actually 5. 22 times 5, right, would be 10. 10 and 1, so 11. 110, right? So 5. That gives you 110. Subtract. You have a remainder of 0. So what's your answer? Can't speak. 2.5. And what do we call the answer to a division problem? the quotient. All right, so let's try this one. This one's a little more difficult, involving decimals in both the dividend and divisor, but I think we can get through it. So what's the first problem here? Well, I have a decimal in the divisor. Can't have that, so let's move him to the right and move him to the right as well. And so what that leaves me with now is 54 divided by 96.2. Okay, and we can work with this, right? Okay, so I have a decimal here in the dividend. Now, so what do we do with that? Well, remember, we always move it up. Okay, so it's going to go right there, and we're going to ignore it down right here. So now, 54 goes into 96 how many times? Well, one time. So if I subtract, that gives me 42. Let's bring down that 2. 54 goes into 422 how many times? I think it's going to be 7. Let's try. 28, 35, and 2, 37, 36. Yeah, that'll work. 7. So 378. Subtract, let's see, it's a 1, it'll be a 4. 44. Okay. So what do I do? Well, I still have a remainder. So remember, I add a 0. Okay, I'm going to bring that down. Well, 54 goes into 440 how many times? I think it's going to be 8. Let's try that. 54 and 8. 32, and then 40 and 3, so 432. Yep, so it'd be 432. Subtract 3. So 8, 3 and 3 is 0, 4 and 4 is 0. Man, got to keep on going. I still have this remainder, right? So bring down 0. Oh, 54 goes into 80 how many times? So it's only going to be once. 54, let's subtract. So 80 minus 54, 26. Okay, so we could keep bringing zeros and, down and down and down. But, this one's going to keep on going, it looks like. And it may end up repeating. But if I said this round to the nearest hundredth, what would we do? Well, we'd say, well, my quotient currently is 1.781, and I want to round to the nearest hundredth. So the 1.7 is going to stay, and the 8 is going to go either up or stay. Well, the 1 to the right of it, well, that means the 8's just going to stay, and it's approximately, and that's what that sign means, 1.78. All right, now, while we're on the subject of remainders, let's just do one more, and this isn't going to be a decimal, but I just want to make sure we're good with this concept. Let's take 477 divided by 4, okay? So, first of all, does 4 go into 4? Yes, one time. Okay, bring down a 7. Does 4 go into 0, 7, which really means 7? Yes, one time. Go 3. Bring down that 7. Does 4 go into 37? Yeah, let's see. 4 times 9 is 36, so that'll work. That'll give us a 1. So now what do we do? Well, we've exhausted all the possibilities here, right? And we haven't added any zeros. So technically our answer is 119 with a remainder of 1. So you guys might have written it like that, and 119 with a remainder of 1. But my question is, what does that remainder of 1 actually mean? Well, it actually means a part of a fraction, right? So the quotient was 119, and then instead of writing R1, we could write a fraction. So we're actually going to have a mixed number. So 119 and 1, which comes from the remainder, over 4, which was our divisor. So 119 and 1/4. So if you plug that in your calculator and you do 477 divided by 4, you get 119.25, right? So the calc gets you 119.25. Well, what is 1/4 actually equal to as a decimal? 0.25, right? So just so you know, that's what a remainder means. And there you go. So that's all I have for you guys on multiplying and dividing with decimals. Thanks for hanging with me. Look forward to seeing you guys soon.